Honda is certainly no stranger to the world of high-performance power sports. Just look at their ATV lineup or even their dirt bikes. But the one thing the brand has never had is a pure sport side-by-side until now. Right here beside me is the Talon 1000X, that's the Talon 1000R, and we're gonna go hit the trails here in lovely Utah, ring these things out, and really see what they're made of. Makes up the Honda Talon? Well, first of all, Honda took an interesting strategy launching two different models, the X and the R. And essentially, the R is for high-speed off-roading, really eating up the whoops, and then the X is for more precise handling. So first, let's talk about the similarities. Now, both of these units use a 6-speed dual-clutch automatic. There are no CVTs here, and they both are hooked up to a 999cc liquid-cooled parallel twin that makes just a little bit over 100 horsepower. And the suspension systems are also the same, meaning that up front you get double A-arm, out back you get a trailing arm, but that's kind of where the similarities end. So the 1000R right here, this thing is just over 68 inches wide, whereas the X is 64 inches wide. Then when you're talking about the trailing arm, the R has a 4-link, the X has a 3-link, again, because this thing is supposed to be for eating up those big whoops.
All right, guys, now the rubber meets the dirt. Here we are in the Talon 1000R, out for a rip, and obviously the first thing that stands out about the R is the suspension. You get a ton of suspension travel here, and it absolutely feels like it. Hitting these big whoops and washboard, this Honda does a brilliant job of soaking it up. So first of all, the downsides. Let me speak on the negatives of the DCT, and I think the first one that comes to mind is just kind of slow speed smoothness, let me say. It can be kind of hard at slow speeds not to be a bit jerky with this machine. The engagement point's a little harsh. Rather than a belt, it feels like it has a little more give to it. But the advantages. So first advantage should be reliability. Now, I can't test that. Our DCT hasn't exploded yet, so that's a good sign. But you know, people burn out belts all the time. It's the most common thing you're gonna burn out on your side-by-side. And there are no belts here, so you don't have to ever worry about that. Now, the other advantages, paddle shifters and manual mode. So I can put it in manual, and I can shift this thing myself, which is awesome. No other side-by-side gives you that control. Well, I shouldn't say that. The Yamaha YXZ does. But the YXZ is just a regular sequential transmission. This is a dual clutch, and basically what the advantage of that is it's super fast shifts. The shifts, boom, just bang off. So when you're rolling through your own gears, it's really satisfying just because of how aggressive the transmission shifts.
So what are the suspension numbers? Well, the Talon 1000R has 17.7 inches of travel in the front and 20.1 inches of travel in the rear. Now looking at the X, it only gets 14.6 inches of travel in the front, while out back the X gets 15.1 inches of travel. Okay, so we just got done our first leg with the Talon 1000R. My very first impression, it's not suspension, it's not steering, it's the way this thing sounds. Honda tuned this exhaust aggressively, so it sounds angry. And I just wanted to show you the adjustable suspension here. So I'm gonna set it up. It has 3 different clicker settings. You have 1, 2, and 3. I'm gonna leave all of them in 2 for now, and we'll start off in 2, the mid-range setting, and then as we go, we'll switch them up, and we'll see how the different shock settings perform.
I kind of find myself drawn to 2 because you get pretty tight handling, but you also get the softness that you want to really eat this stuff up. So there are no different steering modes here in the Talon, and the power steering definitely kind of skews towards the lighter end of things. It's not the heavy steering you'll get on some side-by-sides, but it does offer just enough feedback to make sure you feel in control.
So 104 horsepower, and you know what? It really feels like the right amount for this Talon. Now the thing is, you could be left wanting for more. You know, Polaris, they got 168 horsepower, Can-Am's just over 170 with the turbocharged models. So you can get some crazy power, and there's no doubt that that power is addictive. And after a day of riding in this Honda, there was a few moments where I was sort of like, yeah, a little bit more would have been nice. But this machine never felt like it wanted to kill me, not even once. And you get in a Razor Turbo S, that thing wants to kill you the whole time you're in it. And that's the beauty of this Honda. It's kind of sensible in that way, where it's really packaged so that you can really push this thing to its limit, or at least feel like you're getting to its limit. You know, the limits here are approachable, accessible. That's not really the case with some of those crazy high horsepower models. So like I said, I truly believe that for this Talon, this is the perfect amount of power. The Razor XP 1000 is the direct competition for the Talon, and while it offers 6 more horsepower, the 1000R has about 2 extra inches of suspension travel, though the biggest difference between these two machines are the transmissions.
So now let's do what the Talon R is really meant for, and that is hitting the whoops. So let's see what kind of speed we can get going in some of these big whoops up here. So there's 35, and here come the whoops. And these Fox shocks just do such a nice job. Here on the R, they're 2.5-inch shock bodies to try to help with fade resistance. So guys, we were just shooting some stand-ups out here, and someone down there, looks like a Polaris actually is stuck, so we're gonna go help them out, because that's what off-roading is about, right? It's a great community. We're all out here trying to have fun, and when someone's in need, you gotta help. I want to talk about is just sort of the passenger compartment up here. So I fit pretty good in this machine. Lots of headroom, even with the helmet, no issue there. I like the adjustability on the steering wheel. It can really crank quite far low, and you lift it up quite a bit. So I guess my one complaint is sort of the leg room. You know, I stand at about 6'2", and I could definitely be a little bit further back. I wouldn't mind my leg to be a little bit further stretched out. My knees are a bit high. So for bigger dudes, for bigger people, it's a little tight in here, but it's certainly livable. I mean, we've been in this thing for probably a good 4 hours now, and I'm still not really sore or anything. It's not to that point. And then also a pretty good amount of interior storage, a really, really deep glove box, a little cubby here in the center, which in this case is filled with our rugged radio, 2 cup holders down here, and then of course Honda accessories will outfit you with things like this bag in the middle, so you can add on more storage as you need it.
So now let me show you a bit on this bed back here. First of all, engine access. So there's this big panel here. You flip these locks, that opens right up. There's your air box right there, and if you took this big breather cover off, it looks like you can get right to the top of the engine, which is always good to have access. Now, the other thing I really like about this bed back here are the 4 D-rings that are down here in the floor. You get them at all 4 corners, so if you want to tie stuff down, you can. And then of course, the Honda accessory lineup will sell you a number of different storage solutions for this bed space. And it's also worth mentioning that Honda rates the maximum load in this bed on the Talon 1000X at 299 pounds.
This Talon 1000R, it's a monster, man. I mean, like I said, the power might not quite be there, but if you're looking at suspension, handling, comfort, all of that other important stuff, this whole package really comes together. But now, I want to try out the Talon 1000X. So let's go back to home base, we'll grab an X, and we'll see how it does out here.
Now the fact that the X here is 4 inches skinnier, first of all, means that you're just going to be able to fit into skinnier places than the R will, but it also seems to turn just a little bit quicker, and it kind of wants to rotate a little bit more than the R. And I think part of that is also, of course, the suspension. The R, you get a little bit more of that body roll, a little more wishy-washy. The X feels a little bit tighter and like it really wants to turn when you crank the wheel.
So again, the big difference is this thing is a little bit skinnier and it doesn't have the same travel as the R. And you know what? That couple inches of travel is immediately noticeable. I managed to bottom out this X basically within 2 minutes of being in the driver's seat. The R basically took me all morning to find the bottom of the travel. So there's no doubt that you feel the difference when it comes to just overall, you know, bump absorption. Now we have the shock set on the number 2 setting once again, so the mid setting, and you definitely feels tighter in here than the R. You know, you definitely feel like you have more weight on your front wheels.
So both of these units also use the same tires. These were co-developed between Honda and Maxxis specifically for the Talon, and they're 28 inches. Ground clearance here is also the same. You get 13 inches on both of these models. So there's another system I want to demonstrate for you guys, Hill Start Assist. Essentially, it will hold the vehicle while you transfer your foot from the brake to the gas. So we're stopped here on a sandy hill. You hit this button on the center stack, the light comes on, over to the gas, and off you go. And there's no rollback whatsoever. It holds the vehicle solid. And you know what? That's just a nice bonus feature to have.
Now the other thing, I love the passenger grab handle. It's adjustable and there's no shake in it whatsoever. It's not loose, it's not banging around down while you're cruising down the trail, which is really nice. And another thing for the passengers is the dead pedal. So I got a great dead pedal here for the driver, and the passenger has 2 of them. So you can really, you know, use your feet to stick yourself into the seats. And speaking of the seats, they're actually really comfortable. They're not that heavily bolstered. I was a little surprised to see that they're not as bolstered as I would have expected. But that's actually a good thing because really heavy bolstered seats can kind of fatigue you, and these seats aren't bad at all. They're nice, soft leather, and you know what? I really, really like them. They're comfortable. They don't hold you that well, but I haven't really been noticing it today.
So how do those differences affect the price? Well, the X here is a little bit cheaper. It starts at $19,999 in the US, whereas this R will sell for $1,000 more at $20,999. So how about the pricing back home in Canada? Well, first of all, for all of you Canadians, a little bit of bad news. Honda Canada is not bringing the 1000R north of the border. We don't have the deserts, so I guess they're thinking we don't really need the high speed. I can't say I totally agree, but hey, that's their decision. Now, the Talon 1000X here is coming to Canada, and it's going to sell for $26,999. Look guys, with the Talon here, Honda has not built an absolute horsepower monster like you're gonna get from Polaris or Can-Am. What this thing is the perfect amount of power for this package. Now add on to that unique quick shifting DCT and Honda's storied reputation for reliability, and I have no doubt in my mind that you're gonna see Talons in off-road parks all across North America very soon. So as always, go in the comments, let us know what you think of the new Talon, and as always, come back to TFL for the latest news, views, and real-world reviews. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have beautiful Utah in front of me, and I don't want to miss this opportunity to ride. See ya!